Jurassic World Rebirth introduced us to some pretty wild stuff that I think a lot of people have overlooked. For today's video, I wanted to focus on one particular moment where a fishing crew pulls up a net that had a giant Dunkleosteus head caught in it. Now, this little scene tells us two things. First, there's a lot more extinct species that have been brought back to life than what we previously have heard anything about, and two, there has to be something massive in that water that people are not only aware of, but they must deal with it like every single day. What's going on, guys? Hope you're all doing well. Now look, Jurassic World Rebirth, the Dunkleosteus head falls out of the fishing net and everyone seems to just be going about their day like it's nothing special at all. The reactions from these guys are like, oh yeah, you know, just another giant animal head that's falling out of our nets, just another day of work. But in reality, that has got to be pretty extreme for these people, and if they're so used to stuff like this going on around the bar, it makes you wonder what else could be lurking in those dangerous waters. Now, if we take a look at the monster in question, Dunkleosteus is already a gigantic predator. The creature is supposed to grow anywhere from 13 to 33 feet long and weighs somewhere around the 1 to 4 short ton mark. This was a big animal, and the specimen in Rebirth was particularly large. Of course, Duncan Kincaid brings up the jaws of a massive Megalodon that are on display at the bar in Jurassic World Rebirth as well, and he even mentions that they don't want to be caught around a live one, which suggests that these sort of huge predators are normal for the group of mercenaries around the bar, and they might even have heard some stories about them here and there before going to the Isle of Saint-Hubert. Megalodon is interesting in and of itself because it's one of the most popular sharks of all time, and if InGen or Biosyn or whoever else decided to clone one, and if it was swimming in the same sorts of waters as Dunkleosteus, well then that could very well explain how this one wound up dead. In fact, I think that may be the message that this film is trying to present to the audience. Everyone knows the bite of a shark, especially a shark that big, is nothing to joke about, but I will remind you guys that the Megalodon in Jurassic World Rebirth is also dead. And what do you think may have killed that giant-sized animal? So, was it really the Megalodon that killed the Dunkleosteus in Jurassic World Rebirth? Is that what's going on underneath these waters all the time for people to have so much of a casual reaction every time they see a carcass? Well look, the reason this particular scene in the movie is so cool is that it sets up a kind of post-Dominion world where dinosaur and extinct animal encounters are so common and yet so unpredictable, you don't really know what to expect. And it helps build this world out into some really entertaining ways when you start to unpack it. Dunkleosteus may very well have been killed by a Megalodon in this movie, but the armor plating on the animal's body might have been pretty difficult to break through. Dunkleosteus is what is known as a placoderm, meaning it was this big armored prehistoric fish, and with that huge set of jaws it carried within its mouth, a fight between the two, you know, a Dunkleosteus versus Megalodon, would actually be super cool to see in a Jurassic Park movie all by itself. Not to mention it would be very original as well. But one thing to mention about these guys is that they, much like Tyrannosaurus Rex, would fight each other. A lot of modern thinking is that Dunkleosteus fought each other. So instead of the Megalodon killing the Dunkleosteus in this exact scene, as far as I'm concerned, it could have just been another Dunkleosteus that happened to chomp down on the animal before it was hauled up in that net. And by the way, I just want to mention that scene is super telling because of how fresh the carcass of that monster looks. Something had to have chomped through its head very recently, and the jaws of that Megalodon had to have been cleaned and placed there a while ago. So even though it looks like people have had run-ins with Megalodons somewhere in the Jurassic Park universe out at sea, the Dunkleosteus in this movie was killed very recently, and since we already know one of them was in the water, it could very well have just been another one. But with that being said, the ecosystem of a post-Jurassic World Dominion Jurassic World is starting to look very scary. In fact, I'd go as far as saying that the Planet of the Apes version of a Jurassic Park movie is looking super interesting right now. Megalodon does exist in this series canon if this set of jaws was taken from a live individual, which is what Duncan says in the movie. They don't want to wind up in the jaws of a live one. So yeah, Megalodon being somewhere in that open water could very well have been the culprit as far as what could have killed the Dunkleosteus Dunkleosteus, but my money is still on another animal of the same species just getting into an underwater battle instead of that massive prehistoric shark. The whole reason this is so interesting, guys, is because it builds out this world where you've got dinosaurs and other prehistoric animals just killing each other so nonchalantly that when you roll up on an animal's body, you're like, oh wow, yeah, something got that guy. But you think about the potentiality of a television series, of a really well-written movie, or literally anything else, novels, video games. Jurassic World is amped up to have a lot of quality stuff in the future, but in this particular movie, this one little scene alone has so much world building in it. I think it's great. The only other thing it could have been, besides the Megalodon or the Dunkleosteus, is humans. Look, there's no way a Spinosaurus did this because the head is ripped clean off and we haven't heard any of the Spinosauruses like being in this area. And this is the same reason I don't think a Mosasaurus is responsible either. But humans, on the other hand, are very capable of doing something like this in the film. In fact, we see in one really cool piece of Jurassic World Rebirth material that a group of guys looks like they've killed a Mosasaurus that looks pretty identical to the variant we saw in the first 3 Jurassic World movies. Now, there's no clear indication that this is the same specimen from those films, but they are posed here taking pictures with its body. So even if these guys just found its carcass and started taking photographs of the marine reptile, humans could have easily found a Dunkleosteus attacking fishing boats or other stuff out in that general area, did something to kill it out in the water, and just accidentally caught the head in a net after killing the animal and tossing him back in the ocean. That would also be a pretty cool idea for a scene in a Jurassic Park movie. Got a couple of guys that haul in a tied up Dunkleosteus that are just tired of all their buddies getting eaten, so they decide to use some sort of hydraulic equipment or something to knock his block off and dump him back in the water. The only thing is that would have to be a pretty recent thing to happen. All this stuff just reminds me of the abandoned scene where they tried to calm down the T-Rex in the SS Venture from the Lost World. There was like storyboards where they're trying to hold him down with some construction equipment. He breaks out, kills everybody on the boat. There's a lot of stuff they could do here that I'm hoping they commit to in the future. We're never going to really know what killed the Dunkleosteus in Jurassic World Rebirth because it's kind of unnecessary. They could tell us in the future, but I kind of doubt it. It's just cool in general to talk about, but a Megalodon makes a little bit of sense. It could very well have been humans too, but I think another Dunkleosteus makes the most sense in my personal opinion, and it's something that I think would make for the focus of a cool backstory in a future Jurassic Park film if this little bar is any indication as to what people are dealing with all over the planet. Jurassic World Rebirth has opened the door for literally any dinosaur or extinct creature in the fossil record existing in this universe, whether they be cloned by InGen, Biosyn, or someone else. So who knows, maybe it was even a species we haven't seen just yet that's waiting to show up in a sequel. But what do all of you guys think? What really killed the Dunkleosteus in Jurassic World Rebirth? What do you think about the world building in this scene? And what do you think they could do in the future with any sort of prehistoric animal being out there in the open water or on land in general? I know Jurassic World Rebirth is not the most popular film in the franchise, but for me, it was definitely a step in the right direction. I do want to see what they do in the future, although I will admit they need to bring their A game in the next film because we really need a quality Jurassic Park product that is like as good as it possibly can be. You know what I'm saying? But hey, whatever your own thoughts and opinions happen to be on the subject matter, I'd love to hear all about them in the comments down below. Now, before I go, I want to thank everyone that's helped me build my channel over the years. I'd also like to thank every one of you guys who've watched my stuff. You've all been extremely cool to me. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate a like and hope that you'll consider subscribing. God bless you all. Christ is King. See you guys in the next video. And as always, take it easy.